for the ethical use of AI detection tools. This two-person panel explores the ethical implications of using AI detection tools. Yes, sir. In an academic setting, panelists will discuss challenges, concerns, and responsible deployment, offering insights into balancing innovation with ethical integrity. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Robert Greene.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this full morning. Can y'all hear me okay? Excellent. Robert Greene, Executive Director for Online Instructional Design and Support Services for the system. As you may know, AI technology has become quite a concern for many school systems throughout, and we are part of that. So as some of you may know, we've recently acquired Turnitin AI Detection, and it is on for this semester. So I have two faculty experts who are going to speak to the pros and cons of that, and then we're going to open it up for any questions from the audience. So with that being said, I'll let Tim introduce himself first, and then Dr. Davis.
Hello, I'm Tim Mousel. I'm a kinesiology faculty, but you may think that's a little strange that I'm here talking about AI. Back in the late 90s, I taught myself how to do programming. And then about 4 months before ChatGPT was released, I read about OpenAI, got really excited about it. I immediately started creating 2 educational commercial programs that integrated AI for educators. And since that day, I have studied probably every single day generative AI. Because when I initially started looking into it, I was just mind-blowing of how it's going to change not just education, but the entire world around us. So I wanted to learn as much as I possibly could to leverage it, take advantage of it, and not let it run me over in the future. So that's where I'm coming from. In the last year, I've been busy giving presentations at different colleges around the country, consulting for different agencies. So I've been really immersed in it, and I'm going to just share some of my experiences and research I've done on AI detection. Chris?
Hi, my name is Chris Davis. I teach history at LSC Online. I am not an expert in AI, generative AI, or computer programming. However, I do count myself an expert in human writing. I have a degree in English, a PhD in history. I'm a published author, and I've been teaching writing in the humanities for almost 30 years, at both the high school level and the community college and the university.
We all have, and I know some of you have seen the video I'm going to show, but some of you haven't, so I'm going to show it because it makes a great point. We all have fantastic students that we love, that do a great job, but once in a while, we get that troublemaker student that just drives us crazy. And I have a video of the worst student I have ever had. I will share that with you.
Hi there. I'm out around campus as terrible fun. My professor is making me write a 1,000-word paper about nutrition. I don't want to do it. I don't have the time. So I'm going to have my buddy Claude write it for me. All right, so now it's time to write my paper. So here we go. Write a 1,000-word paper about nutrition as a college freshman would write it. Wow, that was so easy. Here's my paper. I'm going to take it and run it through an AI detector to make sure I don't get caught. Let's go ahead and start with this one. Let's try copyleaks.com. It says it's the most accurate AI detector on the market according to a third-party study. All right, there's the paper. Let's check it. This is humans. All right, it's so fabulous. Not plagiarizing at all. My plan is working perfectly. And you know what? I don't need to make my presentation either. AI does it for me. So I'm going to create new text transform and we'll use my same text. I'll put it in there from Claude, and we'll say generate. There it is. Let's see how it looks. Man, this is a nice presentation. It's looking good. Wow. This makes school so easy. Who needs to learn anything?
Unfortunately, a sad but true story. Students and all of our classes probably are following similar methods of create their papers, check them, scramble them, rephrase them, and turn them in. And the solution that many people believe is get an AI detector, detect when they're using AI. And it's unfortunately not that simple. And I'm going to show you some reasons why it is not that simple. One study that was done shows, so you have statistics that Turnitin supplies and the company supply, which are much different than the statistics that you see independent researchers doing. Turnitin claims a 1% false positive rate, meaning a student writes a paper and they get by themselves and they get accused of using AI when they didn't, 1%. 15% slip past, they use AI, but they don't get caught. And that's according to Turnitin. Other studies show much different numbers. And when a student uses a rephraser, that percent of accuracy decreases dramatically. And when you look at these percentages, to me, they're definitely not acceptable. In that study, the best performing AI detector had a 74% accuracy rate. And this is our specific numbers. Lone Star College last year ran 3.5 million papers through Turnitin. Now, if you use Turnitin statistics of a 1% false positive, that means we have 38,000 students being falsely, not students, but paper submissions, 38,000 being falsely accused of using AI when they didn't. Now imagine a student that writes a paper on their own and then they get accused of using AI. That's very disruptive to a student. That's very disruptive to their education. And I've joined on Reddit student forums where students are on there and I see what they're talking about. My professor accused me of using AI and I didn't. It's devastating. I want to quit school. It really affects the students heavily. So this cannot be taken lightly when you accuse a student. Even saying to the student, hey, did you use AI? It looks like you did. Now they're on the defense. And, you know, I'm sure Chris will talk about some approaches for that, but you also have 70,000 students that did use AI, but are not detected because Turnitin has a 15% that they let slide through just to decrease the number of false positives. Now, is that equitable? One student, both students use AI. One receives 100% and the other gets kicked out of school or fails the course or fails the assignment. They did the same thing. It's not fair. And unfortunately, as of today, there are not any accurate or reliable AI detectors. But then people say, we have to detect AI writing, so this is better than nothing. Is it? Are those numbers acceptable to you to accuse that number of students of falsely using AI? Is knowing that is very disruptive to their education. I mean, personally for me, it's not acceptable. And the future of education cannot be on the same path as the past. We have to prepare students for their future, not our past. And an AI researcher for OpenAI who created ChatGPT, he quit recently for safety concerns because it's advancing so fast. Just 3 days ago, he stated, in 2 years, he predicts that AI will write Pulitzer Prize winning novels. It will write Oscar-worthy movie scripts. And you're telling me with that quality of writing within 2 years that you're going to detect it and catch them? I don't think so. We can't really even do it reliably today. And if you do use the AI detector, just please understand the stats. Understand that maybe it's right, maybe it's not. So then you read the paper and you say, I can tell AI writing. I know what it looks like. I'm a English professor, I'm a humanities professor, I know. Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. In this study, professional linguists read different papers. They were trying to determine which was AI and which was not. The experts could not reliably tell the difference. These are experts, and they couldn't tell. Now, we have all read papers, and we say, I know for sure that is AI, and I agree with you. You can tell on some papers. But the papers that you can tell are because the students are writing terrible prompts, and they're not using rephrasers. If a student writes a good prompt, if they go to YouTube and watch one video, how to beat AI detectors, or they read one article, they will skate past easily.
Yeah.
And the students that don't do that, sometimes you can tell, and it's pretty obvious. One of my assignments and our assignments for the kinesiology department at CyFair, I predict I've had 3 students use AI in the last couple of years. And there's only one reason for that prediction. And that's because they have to use an app to track nutrition for 3 days, say the Fitbit app, track nutrition, print out the charts and graphs in food log, and write a very specific, detailed analysis about their macronutrients compared to the recommendation. That assignment is very difficult to do with AI. If it wasn't, I would have way more than 3 that I would estimate. Now, the million-dollar question: how do you create assignments that make it difficult for students to use AI on their assignments? So instead of saying analyze themes in, you might say connect personal experience to. Now, these are not foolproof. They can be circumvented, but it makes it more likely that you're going to get a legitimate paper. Instead of describe, you can say interview and compare, or apply concepts to our class discussion. What we talked about in the last 15 minutes of class, write about that. AI doesn't know what you talked about in the last 15 minutes. Now, how do you create assignments? And you may not need to create new assignments, but it's possible you may want to look into modifying current assignments. How do you do that? I built a tool for that purpose, and let me bring it up on screen. First, I created a prompt. It's a very long, detailed prompt. And what it does is, if you take that prompt and you put it into ChatGPT or Claude, it will then respond with some questions such as what grade level, what discipline, what type of assignment, asynchronous, online, face-to-face, and then it will create the assignment. It will also take a look, based on the information you tell that, it'll choose from one of these 10 different learning frameworks, which one it's going to model the assignment after. So it does all that, and then it gives you the assignment at the end. It gives you the assessment, it gives you objectives, gives you all the details of the assignment. Now, you are subject matter experts. You get that assignment from AI, you look at it, you modify it, you change it to suit your needs. But it's a really great starting point to modify or even create brand new assignments that, students can use AI. You have to ask, what is the objective of the assignment? Can that objective be achieved by using AI in the assignment? Because surveys done, 92% of hiring managers state that ChatGPT experience is required for future jobs, even jobs now, especially different entry-level jobs. They have to have it. If they don't, they're at a disadvantage. Students are in school mostly to prepare for a future career. And if they're not being prepared for the heavy use of AI in the future, they're at a big disadvantage. So assignments that can incorporate AI help the student, and you don't have to worry about cheating. You don't have to be a detective or a police officer checking, how did you write this and what did you do? Because they're using AI and you know it because it's part of the assignment. With this prompt, you can take that, you can put it into ChatGPT as a GPT, or you put it into Claude as a project. The prompt will always be there, and you just go in there and you answer the 5 questions. You get assignment after assignment. Put in your current assignment, and we'll modify it. So I think that's a great starting point to kind of future-proof and prepare your students for the future. I'm going to go ahead, and if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I put a lot of AI tutorials and tips on there. I'd love to connect. I'm going to turn this over to Chris. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim.
I'll do this, Chris.
I always like Tim to go first, so I can, he says, so I can try to rebut it. Thank you. So I'm going to speak more about the actual use of AI detection. Naturally, I disagree a lot with what Tim said, and I'll talk a bit about why. Over here, you can see, these are just a screen grab from a YouTube page on how to evade AI detection. But it tells us two things. Yes, students are engaging in academic misconduct to circumvent the writing prompts and submit non-human writing. And B, AI detection with limitations works. Otherwise, there wouldn't be videos on how to evade it. Now, when we say AI detection works, it works and it doesn't. And one of the points Tim makes and others makes is that it can be evaded. It can be circumvented. You can use, all sorts of tools. I agree with that. I know that. And for those of us, especially in English and other humanities faculty, I think we are less concerned about how easily or more difficult you can evade AI detection than we are that it actually exists and that it can catch some. I always try to make an analogy. The locks on those doors, they work or they don't? Well, they work, they're locked. Can they be picked? Can they be evaded? Yes. Does that mean we shouldn't have locks on the doors? Two-factor identification on all our emails and all our logins, do they work? Yes. Can they be circumvented? Yes. Is it a reason not to have them? Same with the tax code and the IRS flagging. And yes, there are some false positives, right? Those who slip through the cracks. And one of my points in talking about this is that when we use AI detection, as faculty, we need to be mindful and careful of how we use this. I think, and I've seen this, I think too many faculty, when we have a tool like this, something gets highlighted, something gets flagged, and we say, oh, AI, I don't allow it, fail, without actually looking into it. Was it a sentence? Was it a handful of sentences? Was the flagging big red over multiple paragraphs, or was it yellowish, orangish over this part of the text and that part of the text? So as faculty, we need to be trained and mindful and use it as one tool among many. Naked eye, our own experience, talking with students, whether they're citations or not, as just one element in evaluating student work. One thing is, I was just curious, 3.5 million total submissions in 1 year. I don't know, that seems really high. How many students do we have?
What they do about the papers.
Yeah, I know, but how many students do we have? 70,000? I don't know the math on that, but it seems like students would be submitting 40 or 50 papers in every class, even the math classes, the biology. I don't know, that number seems, I don't know, I cannot believe there's 3.5 million submissions. Even if we accept the 1% inaccuracy rate for false positives or false negatives? False positives, right? I don't know, I happen to think 1% is pretty good. Let's think about the alternative. We don't have a tool, a consistent tool. Tim used, which was the one you used up here? CopyLeaks. CopyLeaks. I think CopyLeaks is awful. I've used that before. I sometimes think that thumbs up, thumbs down is asking you whether it was human, what you put in. Some of these are awful. I mean, they're really bad. The OpenAI one, they came out with it as just a knee-jerk reaction. They didn't want to use it. The public outcry, this is the ChatGPT one, and then pulled it without developing it. And there was a conflict of interest, I believe, because journalists and students are using this and they don't want that detected. Something like Turnitin, which the system is subscribed to, where they get that 1% number. They have millions of student papers written before when the ChatGPT.
November 30th, 2022.
Right? Millions of papers that we know absolutely are human written in their archive that goes back from the early 2000s and maybe the 1990s. And they test their algorithms on those, a controlled sample. And if they're getting 1%, then, I think that's pretty reliable. What are some of the long-term impacts without some kind of AI detection or policy? Because realize if we don't have a tool like this, then are we just going to rely on the naked eye, on human assessment? As Tim rightly pointed out, even experts in linguistics, when they look at something, they have trouble discerning whether it's human or AI. That's some of the best ones. AI detectors far outperform human experts in assessing this. Absent this, we would otherwise have to have policy that there is no academic misconduct or any form of AI writing. Otherwise, without a detector, we're just relying on faculty judgment as opposed to AI detection, faculty judgment, a council for appeals, other forms as a kind of holistic assessment to evaluate student writing and academic misconduct. If we use these, I do have some points that we're developing along the system. We should use these fairly, use it part of a broader set of evidence to evaluate and adjudicate student papers, support and inform instructors on one reliable detector. I think it is best, unless we're going to have a policy that absolutely abolishes these. And then think about the knock-on effects. Writing assignments will go down. I mean, instructors will simply, I speak of this from somebody who assigns writing and is in the humanities and has taught English, history. We will probably stop assigning writing assignments to the extent we can. And we need to think about the implications of that. And as a society, as a system, as academics, maybe it is an open question. What is the value of human writing? What's the value of learning math? I've got a 12-year-old daughter who's doing long form division, right, in middle school. What is the point of that when you just got a calculator? Well, there's value in knowing and doing that. And I would argue there is value in going through the writing process, learning how to become a writer. And then later, like I do, I use ChatGPT all the time, Grammarly all the time. But I know how to write myself, and I like to teach my students, and I think it's a valuable skill for them to learn. And where AI detection fits in, is an open question. But right now, I think we have too many faculty, and I'm not speaking about Tim. Tim's actually been great in helping the history faculty at LSE Online develop assignments. Kind of the knee jerk I've had at conferences and elsewhere from tech experts or people outside the humanities, even some inside the humanities, is simply change your assignments, change your writing prompts. Without any guidance on how that actually works, how we're actually doing it. I think it's important to realize these things have risks. They are imperfect. They should be one of many tools. We should discuss these tools with our students. We should engage with them if and when they are flagged, knowing what a real flag is. Is it a 1,000-word paper that is entirely in red and scores 100% on a system-wide subscribed tool? I think we can have a real conversation about that. Is it some sections of a text that's yellow, orangish, we're not sure? Well, we can still talk with students about why is it being flagged in such a way. And I think we should use this to start a conversation with our students, not as an immediate penalty. Again, I've covered some of this. Our faculty need this as a system-wide tool as opposed to going to that website and picking random tools with varying degrees of effectiveness. It's important. The faculty have been paying. There's word counts if we don't have a tool. Otherwise, system needs to have a policy saying we can't use AI detection, period. And then we've got the knock-on effects of that. I think students need this to have a level of consistency. Also think about the opposite case, right? A student might be accused of AI writing, but here's this robust, as imperfect as it is, AI detection tool that shows, well, no, it was 2%. And actually a student now has a case. Hey, look, you've accused me falsely of this, and even the AI detector shows it's not. That's an argument. I think administration needs a tool like this. accident blanket ban, right? I think across campuses, we have too many different policies, using too many different detectors, naked eye, and this gives a backstop and a robust, consistent tool across the system. And that's my last slide. I'm welcome all of your questions. And again, I would just emphasize, it's not about evading the tool. We know it can be evaded, right? It is, for better or for worse, about the regular, and if you teach writing in this system, the regular, obvious ones that faculty don't have to go and spend, I don't know, hours and hours through tools and digging. And we realize it is imperfect. And I think faculty need to be aware of that too. So with that, we'll leave it for questions.
Thank you. If you'd like to ask a question, you can come up to the podium, please.
I just want, the studies you published that have the percentages down there, specifically, you said, humanities. You said that we're, linguistics experts looking at papers. Is that blind studies with just random papers, or that's different than a teacher looking at their student? You know, the student's capable, right? And what the term again is. Can you speak to that at all? About
Yes.
What numbers?
So you bring up a point that many people bring up where you know your student's writing and you see the student writes like this and all of a sudden there's a paper and it's like, yeah, you didn't do that. But there are many cases where on the first days, you turn in a paper, students can take previous work. Claude AI has a tool built in right on the front screen. Upload your previous writing samples so that I can generate output in the same exact writing style. So when a student uploads their papers, output is exactly the same type of style, and it's going to make it even harder, even if you know your student's writing, because it's the same style of writing. So that's going to be a difficulty there as well. And as far as the study, that was published a while ago. I don't remember the exact details of it anymore, but there have also been other studies I've read where it was independent linguists, researchers, and the actual teachers or professors themselves, and they're comparing all of that, and it's still showing that it's difficult to detect the AI writing at a consistent level. So that's still an issue, really.
I teach students sort of a lot of writing assignments, but it's about content and understanding the content. And if they have this beautiful paper and answer questions.
Right.
That, to me, that's what they actually understand. So,
Right, absolutely.
yeah, I'm going to rely on it. It's almost looks like random. It's completely nonsensical.
Right.
Generally, that is a challenge. How do we job that in city?
Maybe just as backup for your case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, sorry.
Want to go out there that look at the problem way before we had AI. People were like, you know what, my sister's really sharp. My sister went on there. Or have somebody take my bar exam. So I wonder why we haven't sort of looked back at ways we address that problem before. Doing it with technology right now is not really making a difference. It's just still a problem.
Yeah, and you know, when the internet came out, when Wikipedia, there was a huge uproar. Oh, students are just going to copy and paste from Wikipedia, and it was a big worry and a big concern. And of course, it is a worry and a concern. And you can put guidelines in your syllabus of do not use AI. You have to write it yourself. Very strict guidelines. But the fact is, cheaters are going to cheat. If they want to cheat, they're going to cheat. And it's really difficult to stop. You know, you can have your friend write the paper, you can purchase papers. It's a difficult issue. And I think that our role is to, number one, prepare our students for the future, which means if and not every discipline it applies to, I don't think, but if your discipline, if you can integrate some type of AI experience for your students, they are more prepared for the future. And if it's part of the assignment, they're no longer cheating. For example, I offer an extra credit assignment. The students have to, number one, they have to find 3 legitimate sources for fitness, health, or nutrition, or wellness. They then have to create a GPT or a chatbot. They have to write the prompt. They have to upload the documents. They have to have a conversation with the chatbot. They then share a link to the conversation that they had. Then they write an analysis paper of what was their experience with the information discussed in that chatbot. And then they have to fact check with 3 citations. So in that assignment, they are encouraged, they have to use AI, they have to write the prompt, they have to research the facts, and they have to supply citations. So I think that's a great assignment that could be applied to many different disciplines, and it gives students experience with AI. They're not cheating, and they're getting, analytical, research, critical thinking skills. So I think just reframing and rethinking some ideas can be very beneficial instead of playing police officer of, I'm going to catch you cheating. Some professors will take in their assignment description, they'll take and they'll write 1 paragraph about green frogs, and they'll put it in white text so that the students can't see it. Then a student copies and pastes that assignment in the ChatGPT and says, write my paper. Then the professor reads the paper, and all of a sudden there's a paragraph about green frogs. Like, okay, that's very clear that you cheated. So they're catching students. And that catching part is something to consider. I don't like the idea of, I'm going to catch you. It's like me versus you. I don't like that approach personally.
Yeah, I'll just also briefly address some of that. These 2 things don't necessarily have to be mutually exclusive. Using an AI, I use AI in my classroom. I have an assignment like the one Tim described. I use AI, I assigned AI, but for many faculty in the humanities especially, at some point, we do see a value in the writing process, learning how to write and producing original work as an aspect. And I would agree with Tim. You don't need to be police and make that our mission and catching, haha, I got you. But at some level, and I would say maybe it's true in maths too. We have these testing centers. Well, why? Worried about students cheating? Can we use AI in math and physics? Yeah, sure. But at some point, if we want to evaluate the skills that we are required by the state and by our own profession to impart, teach, and learn, in some of these endeavors, this can be a tool for those of us who think that, yes, the writing process or at a certain level in higher education is worthwhile. We can still incorporate AI. We don't have to be the big boogeyman policeman, but this is a tool like Cut It In, like a testing center, like syllabi policy. It is just one tool, and I don't see it as I don't know, big scary thing. Even though I would agree, some faculty interpret it, but.
So, so let me start by saying something that I heard from you just now, which I thought would over 12 first students for the future of us. I very much adhere to that thing. But I also want to add my own prepare students for life. So my question to the court is, based on the trends that we're seeing now, with regards to computer development, machine learning, the machines and learning, what will be the futuristic, or what will be your new concept of education? What are we preparing students to build some further instead of learning content, or instead of learning how to do math, learning how to get a result in virtual programs? What is the new concept? What is the fix that we're supposed to be using?
I'll go first. Yeah, I think that's an important question. And the answer is I don't know. And one of the reasons I'm an advocate for AI detection, judicious and ethical use of AI detection for those who feel they need it, is precisely because we don't know. As a writer myself and somebody who values that, I don't know where human writing is going. I know so many students and colleagues in other industries that are using AI for their emails, for their reports. And that's fine. That's going to be the new standard. But until we know that exactly, we are still in kind of an older model of education. I mean, going back centuries, frankly, with this new thing that has just come out. And until we know exactly where that's going as a kind of transition, as we still do this, I think a tool like this can be effective and useful. And again, I'll go back to these things don't have to be mutually exclusive. We can prepare students for the next technological step in going forward. I use AI in my classrooms, but we can also value independent thinking, original writing, original problem solving, whether it's math, physics, or sciences, without abandoning everything in education over the last many centuries, and just saying that AI is a solution to everything, and let's abandon everything we've done.
In part, your question, this morning before I came here, I started reading a new report that was released yesterday by the World Economic Forum, and it listed the top 10 critical skills for the 2025 in the future. And it was a list of 10. I would encourage you to look up that report because it's very insightful. Like I said, I just started reading it before I came here, so I didn't get a lot of depth out of it, but certainly something to think into. If I recall, number one was analytical thinking, the most important skill for the future. And certainly, I saw another report recently where, and this was a surprise, I gave a presentation yesterday and the question was asked, how would that be on the list? And it was teamwork and working with small groups. So if this is such an individual thing, why is that important? Well, it's important because with teams, that human interaction, that collaboration, you can come up with ideas of how to prompt the AI. What do we want to achieve with it? That can be achieved with teamwork and with small groups as well. So there's still, and Chris mentioned, writing is very important. You have to write prompts to use AI. So writing is important, it always will be, but students don't see it that way. A Texas A&M student said, why should I learn how to write? I can pull out my phone and I can write an entire paper in 10 seconds. So part of our job is also to make students understand why they still do need to know how to write, how they need to know how to decipher the writing. That's all very important. And AI is not going to change that a whole lot.
Folks, I'd like to close this. We are coming to the end. We have another presentation to make after. AI detection is currently available in D2L with Turnitin. If you have any questions or concerns with how to use it or how to put it into your classroom, you can feel free to touch base with us at dtemp@lonestar.edu. And thank you all very much for coming. Thank you all.
Have a good day.
Very good. Very good. People.